Hello and welcome to the Hearts Standard, the latest video from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I'm joined by James Kearney. Sorry, I've got WhatsApp up popping up on my laptop and reading it and trying to do, and while also trying to upload some videos to this. So I'm doing three things at once, presenting them. But we'll get through. I am joined by James Kearney. I'm not sure if I've said that already. We're here to review Wednesday night's 2-2 draw with St Mirren at the Smisa Stadium. Again, it was the penultimate game of the season. We'll get into the key talking points from that. I think there's two main talking points to get into. Before we do, though, of course, we have a boiler question that needs to be answered. Is your boiler on its last legs? Now's the perfect time for a word about our sponsors. Viessmann, renowned for their exceptional German engineering, is a leader in the boiler industry worldwide. They've now partnered with Scotland's own award-winning installation team, MPH Boilers, for a collaboration that's a match made in Scotland. When it comes to heating, Viessmann boilers stand out with efficiency and reliability. Thanks to their advanced technology and with the local expertise of MPH Boilers, you're guaranteed top-tier installation and service. Together, they're offering an unbeatable deal, a free internet controller with every Viessmann boiler, making it effortless to control your heating. Plus, they're throwing in the first-year service for free, ensuring your peace of mind. If you've been thinking about upgrading your boiler, there's never been a better opportunity. With Viessmann's world-class engineering and MPH Boilers' award-winning service, your home heating is in the best hands. Viessmann and the MPH Boilers, it's a match made in Scotland. Don't wait until it's too cold. Check them out today and step into a warmer, more efficient home. So, James, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's a nice sunny day here in Glasgow. I was inside for a bit and decided actually it's too nice to be inside, so I went out and had a coffee in the sun and got a bit of work done. So yeah, no, it's been a good wee day. How's your day going?
Good, yeah. I would like to enjoy the sun. I was very close to nipping down to the shop and getting some beers for later on. However, I've been too busy, so I've not been able to. So I'll just have to have the imagination of me being able to do that over actually being able to do that. But we're here and we're going to be talking about the game from the week. Not the weekend, game from Wednesday night. I am all over the place because, again, I tried to read your email as it popped up while also speaking. So where will we start? You watched the game back, and I mean, I would ask you about anything that stood out, but the main thing that stood out was something that you wrote, and it was about Kyosuke Tagawa, who scored his very first Scottish Premiership goal for Heart of Midlothian. Daniel say I saw history. I was at the game and Kyosuke scored. I just yelled to my mates, I told you he was good. I would say to Daniel, steady on. I wouldn't get too carried away, but it was a fantastic moment. We've seen afterwards, after he scored it, the Gorgie Ultras and the away fans in Paisley. I looked kind of between scoring and then the song stopping. I think they sang for 10 minutes straight on Tagawa and the old Tequila song.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, let's be honest. It was, that was the moment we'd all been waiting for. We're all like, I don't think I've ever seen a case of a club before in the nicest possible way of a player who's offered relatively little during his time and yet is so loved by the fans and still everyone's rooting for him.
Yeah,
I think that's really nice. So yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a nice change of pace in the way that football often is. So yeah, it's absolutely brilliant to see him get his goal. I mean, we've talked about it before. I think that yes, he'd scored against Partick Thistle in the League Cup, but even I will admit it's Partick Thistle. You should be aiming a little bit higher than that. But I think the fact that he's got that goal, he's got that league goal now. That's a monkey off his back, and but I think to myself, this is all round performance. I thought it was actually really encouraging. Yes, he got his goal, fantastic. Obviously, took it really well. I thought there was that chance right towards the end of the first half where he probably should have made it 2-0. There was that ball in from Cochrane towards the back post, and he was there. What I would say was it's not awkward height, and it's also on his weaker foot, which isn't ideal. But I mean, there's definitely still that bit of rustiness there, and I think we could see that from Tagawa on Wednesday night, just because you could particularly even just little things like his build-up play, his link-up play and stuff like that. Like, I think it got better as the game wore on. But I mean, the very first thing he did, the first time he got the ball, was pass it straight out for a St Mirren throw-in under absolutely zero pressure. So there's still an understandable bit of rustiness there because he's not played very often. But I think the fact that he's making these runs, he's getting to these positions, that's more important than whether or not they actually go in, which might sound a bit counterintuitive. And at this stage of the season, it's all about performance because results don't matter anymore. It's all about just make sure you're doing the right things. And he had his goal, he had that chance in the back post, which actually, curiously, because I looked up on StatsBomb because I was like, I wonder what the XG is on that. They only had it at 0.2, which I thought was quite low, quite generous to be honest, if I'm being frank. So maybe it was a little more difficult than it first appeared. But even aside from that, he had his, there was that chance in the second half. We had a great 1-2 with Devlin. Again, the shot's not great, but again, it's more encouraging that he's getting to these positions. So I think that you can see that it's starting to come together there, and you can certainly see what he can offer this Hearts team going forward. It's just, right now, the biggest problem, I think, is that there's a bit of rustiness and a bit of a lack of sharpness. But the only way that's going to come is with minutes and game time.
I'll come in on Tagawa in just a minute, but I'll just add to the stage because it was shot briefly there as I added it to the video. What Stephen Naismith made of Tagawa's performance.
Well, I've known he's got qualities. He's been unfortunate. He's not. I feel he's not had the breaks this season as new players can try and get them. And then with the striker, with the best striker in the league, so it's going to be tough. But he's worked really hard. He's consistently come in and performed in training and wanted to be here, wanted to prove that he can be an asset. And today his movement's brilliant for the goal, and his finish is just a striker's finish. So really pleased for him. Scott Fraser, I felt, came in and done really well. And overall there was lots of good stuff. We were brave on the ball. We played through. Maybe didn't make the most of in the final third, but I'm pleased with a lot of the aspects of the game.
So I left in a bit about Scott Fraser, who we'll come on to talk about because I see Graham mentioned him in the chat there on the side. For me, Tagawa, I was probably a bit more positive after reading your piece on him. I thought he did well to get in certain goal scoring areas, but I didn't feel his all-round game was great. I thought, again, you used the term rustiness, and I thought that's the best way to describe him. Like you said, his first involvement was he passed out the pitch, and we just both looked at each other thinking, "Oh no, it could be one of those evenings." But he persevered and got his goal. The movement was great, and I think that's where he is going to probably thrive, is in and around the box. I don't think he's going to provide much in terms of build-up play because I think he can be quite loose with his passing. I do think that maybe his awareness in Scottish football as well, because you compare him to Lawrence Shankland. His vision, his awareness, he knows what's happening around him. Whereas I think Tagawa, he's like so focused on the ball, and then he maybe forgets what's around him and forgets that perhaps the defender's going to be right up his arse and that's going to move him at the road. And then when that kind of contact or engagement happens, I think he can be a wee bit rushed in what he does, and that can involve him giving the ball away or playing a pass that isn't the right pass, or playing a pass that is behind the person he is trying to get it to. But you saw it watching Naismith in the dugout yesterday. A lot of the time he was saying to Tagawa, just running behind. And I don't think he wanted him coming to the ball. That wasn't his job. So that is, I think there's going to be games for him if he has a future at the club. There's going to be games for him. And like you mentioned in your article, is that tactically, probably a lot of this season, it's not been great for him because Hearts have been playing against deep defences, and there's even not just that, there's not maybe been the players in the team who would benefit him or get the best out of him, because you look at Vargas and Forrest kind of head down. They like to be direct, whereas we've talked about it with Barry Mackay coming in, that he is someone who passes in behind. And I kind of look at, if I'm being really positive, and we'll come on to talk about Tagawa and potential future and what he can still bring to the team. I look at this season with Theo Bair at Motherwell. Blair Spittle has been massive for him. Theo Bair was seen as a joke figure. When Motherwell signed him, there was a lot of eyebrows raised. St Johnstone fans couldn't believe that Motherwell was signing him, and then he goes and he is had the season of his life. And a big part of that is Blair Spittle playing as a number 10 and feeding passes in behind. Danda can do that, as we've talked about. Spittle can do that. Mackay can do that. So there are players there who could probably get the best out of Tagawa and his willingness to run in behind. Just don't know. Of course, don't know what the future holds from. But what is your feeling now for Tagawa, or your feeling over the last kind of few weeks?
I mean, I expect he will be a part of the squad next season. I think he will be getting used. I expect him to get minutes and I expect him to play. I think part of the fact that it's Naismith kind of touched on it in his post-match, but part of the problem is that a lot of games Hearts only play one up front, one out-and-out striker, and it's obviously going to be Shankland. Of course, he's the player of the year. He's best player in Scotland at the moment. He's having a phenomenal season. And then, his other competition for a place up front is, of course, Kenneth Vargas, who's also had a really good season, for a debut campaign. So I think, in terms of the competition he's got ahead of him, that's been tricky. Like you say, tactically, that's probably the biggest thing, I would argue, is the fact that if it's Livingston or St Johnstone or a team like that, when Hearts are playing at Tynecastle, he's just not going to have that space running behind, in which case it's a wasted jersey, to be frank. I mean, we saw, you look back at the game against the Spartans in the Scottish Cup. I mean, that was one of those games where obviously Spartans understandably just parked behind the ball and decided to take their chances. And Tagawa was anonymous, So I think it is about using them in the right games. But I think that, for instance, last night, that is exactly the kind of game he's suited for, because St Mirren do it press aggressively. Then it's quite end to end generally through there in Paisley as well. So. Yeah, I think there are games where he is suited to them, and again, as I've mentioned before, probably games against the Old Firm. I think he's probably really well suited to those, but obviously it's just been difficult to justify starting him in those games at the moment based on how based on how his season's gone. But I do think that, for instance, on Saturday, I would not be surprised if he held on to his place. I'd quite like to see him hold on to his place against Rangers. I'd expect Shannon to come back in the team as well, of course. But again, I think that. That the one thing you'd say all season is that you can't play against Celtic Rangers because he doesn't score goals. It's fair enough. But now he's got a goal under his belt. He's presumably feeling a bit more confident at the moment, and he's got that monkey off his back. I would definitely play him on Saturday against Rangers, and give him another chance to try and build on his previous performance, because obviously after that he's got 2-3 months until the next competitive game. So yeah, if I was Naismith, I'd definitely want to try and just maintain that little bit of momentum that he's got from last night. But yeah, I think there definitely will be a future for him at Hearts, like I do. And like you say, you do see these players who come in, they take some time to settle, but then once it clicks, once they kind of really fit in, the sky's the limit. So yeah, and like you say as well, I think in terms of the personnel coming in, these are players that are going to suit someone like Tagawa. For instance, we've been raving about Cammy Devlin recently. We've been raving about Benny Benningham all season. They're not the kind of players to play, raking 60 yards through passes. They don't do that. For all the things they do, they don't do that. So I think you're right. I think when those guys come in as well, like Spittle, Danda, that should on paper at least give Tagawa a better chance as well. So yeah, again, I think when you look at his raw skill set, the ingredients of a good player are definitely in there. And it's just about making sure he's used the right way. But I think that Naismith will do that given time. And obviously with Europe next season as well, there will be more games where he will be better suited to it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That I was going to say is that it's clear from Naismith that he doesn't want a big squad, but he wants to have players within that squad who are capable, or a balance within that squad, so Hearts have the ability to play different opposition. That Naismith, there's everyone I think will be in tune with it now. There's going to be rotation. I think Hearts fans understand that. There's going to be rotation. There's been rotation this season, and there's going to be probably more rotation next season. There'll be a core set of players, as there has been in this campaign, and then within that, depending on who the opposition is, depending on kind of fatigue, etc., it'll be changed around. So, like you said, there's going to be games more likely. There's going to be more opponents that probably suit Tagawa. European football might suit him more. He's played in Portugal, but one thing is if he does stay, and you look at the options at the moment in the forward areas, Shankland, Wilson, Tagawa, all different players. Add Boyce into that. I wouldn't be surprised to see if we see Boyce moving deeper as the more next season goes on, or the more the older he gets. Naismith talks about his intelligence, like he can play as a deeper midfielders, or like and number 8, seen it a few times within games, and can number 10, so there'll be opportunities for him. I would say I think a lot of Hearts fans would, no matter if it's Shankland stays or goes, probably would like one more forward to be brought in. We've obviously got Vargas as well, but there's different profiles of forwards there. If he does stay, I do think we've seen a wee bit of light on Wednesday, but there still needs to be a lot more from Tagawa, and like you, I would quite like to see a bit more of him against Rangers. I'm not sure he will start, but hopefully he will be involved, so we can get to see if he takes the confidence from Wednesday night's goal. We'll move on to talk about Lawrence Shankland reaching 30 goals. I'll firstly just put in what Stephen Naismith said about about him becoming the first Hearts striker to score 30 since John Robertson in 1987-88.
I'm not sure it'll get... yes, he's had plaudits and people have talked throughout the season, but I don't think people really understand it for a good few years when it's been and gone and somebody else is scoring goals and the comparison comes. I think he's all-round play. Like, Hearts done a lot to get him here, and then they put their faith that he's going to be good. I think he's been good, but he's been a brilliant pro, good leader. And over the 2 seasons he's goal returns unbelievable. So he deserves everything that comes his way. He's had to graft his whole career to get anything out of it. He's had knockbacks, he's had setbacks when he was younger. He's now getting the recognition with the awards, the international scene, but he deserves every bit of it.
And Graham adds in the comments that 30 in a season for a club outside the top 2 is incredible. And Shankland has scored different types of goals. Last night was a sensational finish. Whatever happens, it's been a pleasure to have him. Well, discussing Shankland's future, that can be for a video further down the line. We'll just celebrate the fact he is here. The goal yesterday, we spoke to Shnkland after the game, or the press did, and I mentioned it to him that he scored a very, very similar goal for Dundee United against St Mirren in the Scottish Premiership. I would urge anyone to look up. What did I Google? Dundee United 2, St Mirren 1, 2020 Shankland goal, and you'll find it. And it's eerily similar. So anyone watching last night thinking, oh, it's just a hit and hope or a fluke nonsense, he knew exactly what he was meant to do. And it's just another goal to add to his repertoire. Yes, he scored loads of goals. It's a brilliant achievement. It's an incredible achievement, which I'll add to in a second. But just the manner of these goals, it's just been an absolute joy to watch. I mean, ran out of superlatives words to describe him. I think last night I said he's incredible, iconic, irreplaceable, because that's what he's going to be. He's going to be irreplaceable, whether he leaves this summer or he leaves next summer after the expiry of his contract, providing he doesn't sign a new deal. But to put it further into context, how good it is, and this is from Hearts heritage, he became the 12th individual wearing maroon to score 30 goals in a season, and that's 150 years of the club. On 18 occasions, a player to score 30 goals. So the likes of Jimmy Warhaw, Willie Bald, Barney Battles Jr., and I'm forgetting maybe Andy Black, I think it is. They did it on more than one occasion. Of the 18 occasions, 16 of them happened within a 45-year spell. The final two came across 60 years. So Robbo in 1987-88 and now Shankland in 2023-24. This is after 28 goals last season. So let's face it, if he stays next season, he's going to score 40.
Maybe. I don't know if
potentially 8 to 10 games in Europe. So
I suppose, yeah, when you put it like that, yeah. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, at this point, it's kind of, what else can we say? 30 goals, like Graham says, it's a remarkable achievement for a player outside the old firm. There's a reason why he's become the first Hearts player to ever win the PFA Player of the Year award, because he has been the best player in Scotland this season. There's no two ways about it. I mean, I was looking into earlier, and I know that I'd previously looked up, in terms of Premiership opponents, and Kilmarnock are the only team that he's not scored against, although he has forced an own goal against them. And I was looking at it, and even look across the whole season in all competitions, it's Kilmarnock and Morton. They're the only two teams that haven't conceded a Lawrence Shankland goal this season out of teams that have played Hearts. And I think that kind of tells its own story. And like we say, like we've been talking about, there's that range of finishing as well. The fact that it's all sorts of goals against all sorts of opposition.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I've got a piece going out. I think it's tomorrow. It's going out, looking at kind of Shankland's kind of numbers behind, Shankland's hitting the 30 goal tally. And when you compare just things like his XG to his, basically if you look at, for instance, Scott, everyone who's hit double figures in the league this season, so they've got 7 or 8 players there who've hit double figures for goals this season. And you look at the amount of XG per shot they get. Basically everyone's got a higher XG per shot, bar James Tavernier, than Shankland. So basically everyone else gets better opportunities than Shankland. All the other top goal scorers in the league, and yet Shankland still outscores them all. So it's not. It's when you look at, I think his XG for the season is like almost. I think it's exactly half what his overall goal tally is. So 11.5 is what it sits at. It's thereabouts. So that means if you put anyone else, you put an average guy, an average player into that position, they get 11 goals. You put Shankland into, he will get you 23. And I think that's the big thing. Is like, again, it's stuck into the weeds because I know that this data stuff's not for everyone, but again, you look at the difference in his XG and his post-shot XG. So the XG is like when the chance arrives, what's the chances of it going in? And then the post-shot XG is if you hit a shot, once you hit the shot, how likely is that to go in? And again, his just, the difference between, might have like an okay chance, and then if it's Shankland that hits it, it goes from an okay chance to a good chance, or a good chance to a great chance. And there are very, very, very few players in Scotland that do that. It's just, it's unique. It's unique.
Yeah, I think that's the best word to describe. I was going to say remarkable, but unique is that you can look at it, and in some instances, like XG can be used for okay. We might suggest a bit of luck, but when it comes down to the individual player, with Shankland, that just shows that he is a much better finisher than anyone else. That's exactly.
That's the long and short of it. It's one of the numbers. When you cut through all the numbers, that's what it all means. And again, it's probably something that Hearts fans can tell you. We watch him, we see him, we know that he's a great finisher. But it's still nice for him to put a number on it. It's still nice for him to contextualise it. I like doing that because I like numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just any way you can paint up just how great an achievement is, whether it's looking at the Hearts history, 150 years of history, goal scorers, or the stats and what he's doing compared to the rest of the Scottish Premiership. It's just been I said it earlier on, just been a joy to watch, and it is a season where you're just going to have to. It's going to be a memorable one because of how comfortable the team have done in terms of finishing third, where they came from early in the season, but just Shankland within that. This is going to be a Lawrence Shankland season. Looking back in a few years' time at this campaign, like James Govan says, it'll be another 20 plus years before we have a goal scorer like Shankland. And yeah, it's these guys don't grow on trees. And I was reading Barry Anderson's interview with John Robertson today, and it was really good. And there was a few. So I advise anyone to read it. And there was a few things that's kind of stood out for me. It's like he said, the guy's phenomenal. People talk about whether natural goal scorers are born or made. To be the best, the most natural strikers are born. You can't coach the goal Shankland scored last night or the previous one he scored against St Mirren at Tynecastle. He just has that uncanny ability to know where the goals are. You can improve touch, technique, head, and weak foot, but you can't teach the natural instinct to score out of nothing. And I've really liked that last bit. I think Rob was absolutely spot on. And who better to give that context than one of the greatest, if not the greatest, goal scorer in Hearts history? So yeah, who knows what happens in the summer? I'm trying to stay positive and cling to the fact that we might get another 12 months out of him. But Saturday, if anything, just enjoy at least one more outing of Shankland, and he can have if he scores 2, I think he'll become the highest goal scoring season since Willie Bould or Jimmy Warthog in the late 1980s. I wonder if this is a question for when he departs or if we talk about his future. But in short, James, would you class Shankland as a Hearts legend or a Hearts great?
See, it's probably not really my place to say, to be honest, but I would probably, I think right now you'd have to go for great, I think.
Yeah.
Just
I think
because I think we might have touched on this before, but it's the lack of a trophy. I think that's maybe the difference, which is a bit reductive and it's a bit unfair because trophy wins for Hearts aren't that regular of an occurrence, and a lot of it's based on the rest of the team and not just him. But yeah, I think that is the difference. I think right now it's like if there was something tangible to really show for everything he's done, then at that point that kind of elevates you. But until that point, there's always going to be those little things that like, yeah, he was a wonderful player, but I mean, it's like that's going to sound a bit silly, but think of like, for instance, all the chat around like Messi and stuff, and he's the best ever. Who knows? But he's not won a World Cup. And then he wins the World Cup, and then everyone goes, "Oh, well, he is the best ever now." So little things like that. It's like it does actually make a difference. Like those kind of trophy wins. Like as much as I hate being a show us your medals guy, like I think that is probably the difference between a great and a legend in my view.
I would say the only thing I would add to that is that I think longevity comes into it. If he doesn't win a trophy, if there doesn't win a trophy, for example, like Robbo, if he had so he didn't get on the pitch in the cup final in 1998, but he got a medal. Even if he didn't get a medal or he'd left the season before, he'd still be a Hearts legend just because he did it over 2 spells, but over a long period of time. So there's that longevity. So Shankland's only been here 2 years. His goal scoring record's incredible. So yes, I think the next step is either sign a long-term deal and continue to score goals, or pick up a trophy if he stays next season. Just before we finish up, I thought it would be worth talking about Scott Fraser. Might be in the minority here, Graham says, but thought Scott Fraser played well in that deep role, always made himself available, and don't think he gave the ball away. What did you make of his performance, having watched it back? My view, I thought he was all right.
Yeah, well, to be honest, last night I was watching the game. I was kind of like, yeah, he's fine, whatever. But to be fair, in the second watch, I'd agree with Graham. Actually, I thought that he was really tidy on possession. He doesn't offer anything anywhere near as much as Benny does off the ball, though. I think that's a big problem. The guy can't really tackle. That's not his game. But certainly in terms of in possession, sitting at the base of midfield, keeping things ticking over. I thought he did a really good job of that, and there's a couple of times where he had some nice footwork to kind of shift past players and move forward. So yeah, a really, really encouraging performance, I'd say.
Yeah,
that might very well be the last time we see him in a Hearts jersey though, as well.
Yeah. So I thought he did really. I thought he was all right. Wasn't Benny. Naismith really likes him in that position. He thinks there's scope for him, and I think when he spoke earlier on this month, still hinted that there was a future for Scott Fraser at Hearts. I struggle to see it just because you look at potentially Benny re-signing, Spittle coming in, Danda coming in, there's Devlin there, Callum Muirhoff to come back, got Aidan Denham there, Macaulay Tate as well. So you just wonder where he fits in. So yeah, it would, unsure whether we'll see him at Hearts next season. We will finish there. I was going to speak about Peter Haring, Andy Halliday and Michael McGovern. Hearts have confirmed that all three will leave in the summer. Don't think that's any surprise to any fans. Andy Halliday is on loan at Motherwell. I think he'd signed a pre-contract there to sign in this, go permanent in this the summer. Michael McGovern was brought in as backup while Craig Gordon continued his rehab. He was on loan at Livy earlier on in the season. And then Peter Haring, been a frustrating season for the Austrian. Again, struggled with injuries. It's not a great way for him to end his career at Hearts, but we might go into greater depth about Haring potentially in a later podcast. We've got the press conference tomorrow where we'll definitely be asking Stephen Naismith about Haring. He played with him. He's now coached them. I think they got on really well. They were pretty close. So be interesting to hear what Naismith's view on Haring and how he viewed him as a player, as a teammate and as a player he coaches. And there'll definitely be writing something up about Haring's time at Hearts because it's been a frustrating one, but at the same time, he has certainly I'd say he's been a good signing because of the influence he's had over a few seasons. The influence, the notable influence that was missed when the team finished bottom in the 2019-2020 season as well. So yeah, I think he's the main one that that will get a lot of attention on. Probably the only one actually. They'll get a lot of attention on Saturday when the team do their lap of honour after the season has finished. So we will leave.
Well, I'd say as well, just very quickly, one aspect of Haring's kind of influence on the team that will be sorely missed will be his fashion sense. Because at the Player of the Year awards, he looked fantastic. He was dressed he looked brilliant. Yeah, he looked absolutely brilliant. So I think the other boys could take a leaf or two out of his book. I thought he looked great.
I don't think I've seen any photos of him, but yeah, he's normally a very well dressed man, a very handsome figure as well. So yeah, he'll be missed for a number of reasons. I know I'm fortunate to have spoke to him a number of times, including once at a PFA Scotland Awards dinner where I was at least half cut and nipping his ear about anything and everything, and he was absolutely pleasant enough to continue to speak to me and chat away, and then just doing kind of press conferences. I know how popular he is around Tynecastle with staff, with teammates, with coaches, and he's always an interesting one to speak to. So yeah, he'll be missed, but it's just a shame how his career's gone at Hearts, the way it started and the kind of the trajectory just with injury. So it's been unfortunate. But yeah, there'll be more on Haring over the coming days, I am sure, on the site. Until the next time we speak, thank you very much, James, and thank you very much, everyone, for continuing to listen and subscribe, engage, and put up with me for this podcast where I've been all over the place because I've been trying to read emails, read messages and read comments that have been coming in and just all over the place. But these things happen. So, yes, goodbye.
Bye-bye.